The desert stretched endlessly under the bright sun. Waves of heat rose from the golden sand, making the horizon shimmer like water. Malik walked slowly, his boots sinking with every step. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked back at the small group following him. They were tired, but their eyes still carried excitement. They had been searching for weeks, following old maps and half-forgotten stories about a lost tomb buried under the dunes. Malik was not a rich man or a famous explorer. He was a student of history, someone who loved the past more than the present. Since childhood, he had listened to tales of kings and pharaohs, of gods and mysteries hidden beneath the desert. When he grew older, he decided he would not only read about them but also try to find what others had missed. The group stopped near a tall ridge of stone rising from the sand. It was not natural. The lines of the rock were too sharp, too smooth. Malik bent down and brushed away the dust with his hand. Strange carvings appeared, worn by time but still visible. His heart beat faster. These were not the usual symbols found on tomb walls. They looked like stars, circles with rays, and even shapes that reminded him of machines. "This is it," Malik whispered, though his voice was steady enough for all to hear. "The tomb is here." The others began working at once. They used small tools, shovels, and brushes. The hours passed slowly as the sun moved across the sky. At last, as evening fell, a wide stone door came into view. It was sealed tightly, covered in dust and sand, yet untouched by the centuries. Across its surface were more carvings, showing a figure that seemed half human and half something else. Its eyes were large crystals set deep into the stone. The air grew strangely heavy, as if the desert itself was watching. Malik placed his hand on the door. He felt a faint vibration beneath his palm, like the heartbeat of something alive. "Help me," he said to the others. Together they pushed against the stone. It groaned and shuddered, releasing a gust of stale air as if the tomb itself exhaled after thousands of years. The sound echoed across the empty desert, deep and hollow. With one last effort, the door slid open, revealing darkness inside. The group lit their lamps. The flickering light fell across golden walls and tall pillars. Unlike other tombs, there were no paintings of gods carrying souls to the afterlife. Instead, there were maps of the sky, diagrams of strange machines, and pictures of men standing beside tall beings made of shining stone. The chamber did not feel like a place of death but of hidden power. Malik's friend Rami stepped closer to one of the walls. "These are not normal carvings," he said, his voice filled with awe. "Look at this. It shows the earth, the sun, and other worlds. Who could have made this?" Malik did not answer. His eyes were fixed on the center of the chamber. There stood a towering figure, far taller than any man. It was built of metal and stone, its body shaped like a guardian statue, yet every line of it seemed alive. The crystals in its eyes caught the lamplight and glowed faintly. Dust covered its shoulders, but its form was unbroken, untouched by time. The group fell silent. The only sound was the soft crackle of the lamps and the distant whistle of desert wind. Malik felt his chest tighten. This was not simply a statue. He could feel it. Something inside it was waiting. He stepped closer, raising his lamp higher. On the base of the figure were more symbols. They told a story, but not one he had ever read in books. They spoke of guardians left behind, of warnings, and of a curse that would fall upon those who disturbed the tomb. Yet in the same lines, there was also mention of the chosen heirs of earth. Rami frowned. "This is strange. Pharaohs were buried with treasures, but this place has no gold, no jewels. Only this guardian. It is more valuable than gold," Malik said softly. His voice was steady, but inside his heart was racing. He could feel the weight of discovery pressing down on him. If this was true, if the carvings were real, then the history of the world was not what people believed. This was not just a tomb. It was something else. The group began exploring further. They found side passages filled with carvings and inscriptions. Some showed people kneeling before the stars. Others showed ships that seemed to sail not on water but through the sky. Malik followed every detail with wide eyes, his lamp glowing against the ancient walls. At last, they returned to the main chamber. The guardian stood in silence, but the air around it seemed warmer, charged with hidden energy. Malik placed his hand on the base of the figure. The stone felt cool, but he sensed a faint hum, like a whisper under the surface. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Rami said quietly, "What if the curse is real?" Malik looked at him. "Curses are made to scare thieves," he said, though his words were slower than usual. "But this is not about curses. This is about something greater. Look at it. Do you feel fear, or do you feel like it is waiting for us?" The group exchanged glances. They could not deny the feeling. It was not a place of death. It was a place of waiting. Night fell outside, but inside the tomb the lamps burned steadily. Malik sat near the guardian, staring up at its silent face. The desert wind howled faintly at the entrance, carrying grains of sand across the floor. He felt as though they had awakened something, not fully, but enough for it to know they were here. And though no sound came from the guardian, Malik could not shake the thought that it was listening. The desert night was quiet, yet inside the tomb there was no true silence. The air seemed alive with a faint hum, a vibration that none of the explorers could explain. Malik sat close to the great guardian statue, the lamp by his side casting long shadows across the golden walls. He could not take his eyes away from its crystal eyes. They reflected the light like pools of water, deep and unreadable. The others were tired. Some of them slept near the entrance, wrapped in blankets against the cold desert wind that seeped in. Rami, however, stayed awake, leaning against a pillar while studying the strange carvings. His brow furrowed as he traced one symbol after another with his finger. "These lines," Rami said softly, "they are not just decoration. They look like instructions, like parts of a design." Malik turned his head. "What kind of design?" Rami hesitated. "Something mechanical, maybe. I cannot explain. Look here, it shows circles that connect together, almost like gears. And this line goes up, as if leading to power or movement. What if this statue is not only a statue?" Malik already felt the same thought pressing inside his mind. From the moment they had seen the guardian, he sensed it was more than stone and metal. The faint hum that touched his hand earlier was not an illusion. He rose and walked slowly around the guardian. His lamp revealed joints at its shoulders and knees. They were hidden well, carved so neatly that one could mistake them for decoration. But they were joints, built to bend and move. "This is not a statue," Malik whispered, his voice steady. "This is a machine." The words made the air feel heavier. Even Rami, who often doubted old tales, stayed silent. Malik placed his hand on the guardian's arm. The stone was smooth and cold, but he felt that same hum again. His heart began to race. He pulled his hand away quickly, as if the surface carried a secret waiting to be unlocked. Rami stood and came closer. "If it is a machine, how can it still have power? Thousands of years have passed. No machine can last this long." Malik thought of the carvings. He thought of the stars, the ships, the guardians. Perhaps the builders of this tomb were not ordinary men. Perhaps they knew secrets far beyond the reach of their time. Before he could speak, a sound filled the chamber. It was soft at first, like the stirring of wind, but it came from within the guardian. The crystals in its eyes flickered faintly, catching the lamplight and then glowing on their own. Rami gasped. The others stirred awake, rising from their places and hurrying into the chamber. They looked around in confusion until their eyes fell on the guardian. It was glowing, faint but clear, as if awakening from a long sleep. The group stepped back in fear. One of them whispered, "It is cursed. We should leave before it rises." Malik raised his hand to calm them. "No. It does not want to harm us. Look at the walls. Look at the words. They speak of guardians, of chosen heirs. What if this is what they meant?" The glowing crystals grew brighter, filling the chamber with pale light. Dust fell gently from the guardian's shoulders as a low rumble passed through the stone floor. The explorers held their breath. Then, a voice filled the chamber. It was not spoken with lips, nor did it come from a mouth. It echoed through the walls, deep and calm, as if carried by the air itself. The language was strange, yet Malik felt the meaning forming in his mind. "Who enters the chamber of the guardian?" The words made the group shiver. Some looked ready to run, but Malik stood firm. His voice shook only slightly as he answered, "We are explorers. We are children of the earth. We found this place in search of truth." There was a pause. Then the voice spoke again. "Children of earth. Long have I waited for your return. The heirs must come to awaken the guardian. You have broken the seal, and now the time has come." Malik's heart pounded. He looked at the others, but their faces showed only fear. He gathered courage and stepped closer. "What are you?" he asked. "I am the sentinel," the voice answered. "I was placed here when the pharaohs were young. I was built to watch, to guard, and to awaken when the heirs of earth stood before me." The room fell silent again, only the faint glow lighting the guardian's form. Malik struggled to understand. Pharaohs were kings, mortal men. But this voice spoke of something larger, something ancient. "Why were you hidden here?" Malik asked. "To protect the seed of knowledge," the sentinel replied. "The kings of the past were chosen not for power but for duty. They were keepers of the message, guardians of the truth. But time passed, and men forgot. They built temples and told stories, yet the true meaning faded. I remained, waiting for the heirs who would seek truth beyond fear." The explorers whispered among themselves. Some believed, others doubted, but none could deny what they had seen. Malik's voice was quiet, yet steady. "What is this truth you guard?" The crystals glowed brighter, and for a moment the chamber walls seemed alive with light. The carvings of stars and ships shimmered as if touched by energy. "The truth," the sentinel said, "is that you are not alone. The pharaohs knew of others who walk among the stars. They built monuments not only to honor gods, but to signal to those who once guided them. This tomb is not of death. It is a beacon, a bridge between earth and the sky." The group stared in awe. Rami shook his head in disbelief, yet his eyes were wide with wonder. "Are you saying, this was made by beings from the stars?" "Yes," the sentinel replied. "They gave knowledge, and they chose earth as a place of promise. But they warned of enemies, forces that would one day return to claim what was not theirs. That day will come. The curse you have heard of is not death but warning. Those unworthy will be consumed by fear. But those who are true heirs will rise." Malik felt his breath catch. His mind was full of questions, yet his heart told him that everything he heard was real. The crystals dimmed slightly, as if the guardian rested again. The voice faded into silence. Yet the hum remained, steady and calm. The explorers looked at Malik. Some still feared, others felt awe, but all of them waited for him to speak. Malik stood tall and said, "This is not a curse. This is a gift. And we are meant to find it." The night deepened outside, but inside the tomb a new light had been born. The desert night lingered outside, but inside the tomb the explorers could not tell the passing of time. The glow from the guardian's crystal eyes filled the chamber with a pale light that never dimmed. The walls seemed alive with quiet energy. Every corner of the golden chamber whispered with history that had waited for centuries. Malik stood before the guardian, his lamp forgotten on the ground. His heart beat fast, Yet his mind was clear. The voice they had heard still echoed inside him, steady and powerful. He felt as though the guardian's words had not entered his ears but his very thoughts. The others huddled near the entrance. They spoke in low tones, their voices trembling with uncertainty. Some wanted to leave the tomb, fearing that they had disturbed something sacred. Others argued that they could not walk away from such discovery. Rami stepped forward, his face pale but curious. "Malik, what do we do now?" The machine spoke. It said, "We are heirs." But heirs of what? Malik did not answer at once. He walked slowly around the guardian, his fingers tracing the symbols carved on its base. The lines glowed faintly, like hidden veins of light running through the stone. The patterns looked less like writing and more like circuits, designed to channel energy. He placed his palm on the surface once more. This time the hum was stronger. The vibration ran through his hand and into his arm, steady like a heartbeat. The guardian's voice filled the chamber again, deeper than before. "Heirs of Earth. You have touched the seal. The time has come for the guardian to rise." The ground trembled beneath their feet. Dust fell from the ceiling as the great figure stirred. With a grinding sound, the guardian's arms shifted, bending slowly at the joints. Its head tilted forward, and the glow in its crystal eyes grew brighter until the chamber shone with white light. The explorers gasped and stumbled back. Fear and awe filled their faces as they watched the ancient statue move like a living being. Malik, however, stood firm. Though his heart raced, he could not look away. He felt no threat, only the weight of something greater than himself. The guardian rose to its full height. Its towering frame seemed to touch the ceiling. Stone and metal plates shifted smoothly, guided by hidden mechanisms that defied age. The hum became a steady rhythm, as though the chamber itself was alive. When the movement stopped, the guardian lowered its head and spoke again. "I am sentinel of the pharaohs. I was left to guard the truth of Earth's place among the stars. For centuries I slept, waiting for those who seek not gold or power but knowledge and courage. You have awakened me." The group was silent. None dared interrupt. Malik felt the words settle in his mind like seeds taking root. He took a step forward and asked, "What is our duty as heirs?" The sentinel's eyes glowed brighter. "You must listen and remember. Long ago, Earth was visited by travelers from the stars. They saw in your kind the strength to endure, the will to rise, and the heart to lead. They shared wisdom, not to rule you, but to prepare you. Pharaohs were chosen to protect this knowledge, but as time passed, men forgot. I remained, holding the memory of your destiny." Rami's voice broke the silence. "Destiny? We are simple people. We have no armies, no power. Why choose us?" The sentinel's reply was calm. "Because greatness is not found in armies. It is found in hearts that choose truth over fear. The chosen heirs are not born from royal blood but from the courage to seek what others ignore. You came here not for treasure, but for answers. That is why the seal opened for you." The words struck Malik deeply. He remembered the years of study, the long nights spent reading forgotten texts, the endless search in the desert with little food or water. He had never sought riches, only the truth. Now that truth stood before him, alive and speaking. The sentinel extended its arm slowly. From its chest, a panel opened, revealing a sphere of light. The glow was soft, shifting like liquid fire. Malik felt its warmth reach him, gentle and steady. "This is the heart of the guardian," the sentinel said. "It holds memory older than your kingdoms, older than your pyramids. Within it lies the record of those who came before and the warning of those who may come again." Malik raised his hand hesitantly. He did not touch the sphere but felt its energy wash over him like a tide. In that instant, images filled his mind. He saw ships sailing across the sky, vast and shining. He saw men and women standing with beings of light, learning from them, building together. He saw battles among the stars, dark figures rising with greed and hunger. His breath caught. He pulled his hand back, and the visions faded. The sphere closed, sealing itself again within the sentinel's chest. "What did you see?" Rami asked urgently. Malik's voice was quiet. "I saw the past and the future. I saw why this place was built. We are not alone. There are others out there, some who guided us, and some who may one day come against us." The group shivered. One of them whispered a prayer, another hid his face in his hands. The weight of Malik's words was heavy, yet undeniable. The sentinel spoke again, its voice steady. "You have seen the truth. But truth alone is not enough. You must prove that humanity is worthy to stand among the stars. Soon a test will come. If you stand with courage, you will rise. If you fall to fear, all will be lost." The chamber fell silent after these words. The glow in the sentinel's eyes dimmed slightly, as if it rested once more. Yet the hum of energy remained, steady and unbroken. Malik stood in thought, his eyes on the guardian's towering form. He knew their lives had changed forever. They had entered the tomb as explorers, but now they stood as heirs of a destiny larger than the desert, larger than the earth itself. Outside, the desert wind shifted, carrying the whisper of sand across the dunes. The stars shone brightly in the night sky, watching over the tomb as if they, too, waited for what was to come. Malik looked at his companions. Some were afraid, some were curious, but all of them were silent. He spoke with calm strength. "We cannot leave. This is only the beginning. The Guardian has awakened, and it has chosen us to carry its message. We must learn, we must prepare, because the test will come." No one argued. They felt the truth in his words. And in the quiet glow of the chamber, the explorers sat together, waiting, listening, and wondering what fate awaited them beyond the sands of the desert. Morning light touched the desert outside, but deep inside the tomb, the explorers had no sense of time. They had stayed awake through the night, their eyes fixed on the towering sentinel that stood like a living guardian. Its crystal eyes glowed faintly now, softer than before, yet the hum in the chamber had not faded. Malik sat cross-legged near the base of the machine. His face looked tired, but his eyes were full of thought. He could not rest. The words of the sentinel kept circling in his mind. He had asked for truth, and truth had been given. Yet it was larger than he imagined, greater than any book or story could describe. Rami leaned against a pillar, watching Malik. His voice was low. "I cannot believe what we saw. A statue moving, speaking, glowing with light. And those visions. You said they were real. Do you truly believe it?" Malik lifted his head slowly. "Yes. I felt it. The visions were not a dream. They were memories, carried within the sentinel. They showed us the past, a history older than our own." The others gathered close, their curiosity stronger than fear. One of them asked, "Tell us again. What did you see?" Malik closed his eyes, letting the images return. He spoke slowly, carefully. "I saw ships in the sky, larger than mountains, built not by our people but by beings from the stars. They came to earth in ancient times. They did not conquer. They guided. They gave knowledge to our ancestors, teaching them to build, to measure the heavens, to shape stone into wonders that would last through time." The explorers exchanged glances. Their faces showed doubt and awe mixed together. Malik continued, his voice steady. "I saw pharaohs walking beside them. Not as servants, not as slaves, but as guardians of a promise. The pharaohs were chosen to protect the knowledge until the time was right. They were told to build tombs and temples, not only to honor their gods but to keep alive the memory of what had been given. Yet over centuries, the meaning was forgotten. The stories turned into myths. Only here, in this hidden chamber, the truth remained. The group fell silent. The desert wind moaned faintly outside the entrance, as if carrying the weight of history across the sands. Then Rami spoke again, his voice sharp. If they came from the stars, why did they leave? Why did they hide their knowledge instead of sharing it with all? At that moment, the sentinel's eyes flared brighter. The chamber filled with light, and its voice returned, calm and deep. They left because the time was not ready. Humanity was still young, still fragile. Too much power, too soon, would destroy what they wished to protect. So they chose keepers among you, men and women of courage, to guard the seed of truth until the world could understand. I was left to guide the heirs when they appeared. The explorers listened, frozen in place. Malik bowed his head slightly, showing respect. And the enemies? The ones you spoke of. Who are they? The sentinel's voice grew heavier, carrying a tone of warning. They are wanderers of the void, seekers of power. They once came to this world but were turned away by those who guided your ancestors. They seek not to teach but to claim. They see earth as a prize, rich in life and spirit. One day they will return. That day draws near. The chamber grew colder, though no wind entered. The words sank deep into the hearts of the explorers. Fear touched their thoughts, but alongside it came a strange spark of pride. If their world was important enough to be protected, then perhaps their lives carried meaning far beyond what they had known. Malik stood tall, his voice calm. So the curse carved on the walls was not meant to frighten thieves? It was a warning of the danger beyond our world. Yes, the sentinel replied. Those who sought only gold and riches would never understand. They would flee in fear, believing the curse was death. But the heirs would seek truth, and in truth they would find destiny. The chamber was filled with silence once more. The explorers sat together, their minds heavy with questions. One asked softly, "What do we do now? How can simple people face such things?" The sentinel lowered its head, and the glow of its eyes softened. The test will come, not of weapons but of spirit. You will be asked to choose courage over fear, unity over division. Only then will the power I hold be given. It is not machines that shape destiny, but hearts willing to stand. Malik looked around at his companions. Some were frightened, some doubtful, yet none turned away. He felt a quiet strength rise within him. He had no sword, no shield, but he had faith in what he had seen. Humanity had endured deserts, storms, and endless trials. If they were chosen, it was because they carried that strength within them. Rami spoke again, softer this time. If what the sentinel says is true, then the pharaohs were not rulers of only Egypt. They were guardians for all of earth. Malik nodded slowly. Yes. Their duty was greater than any crown. They were chosen to protect the truth until we came. And now, the duty has passed to us. The sentinel's voice returned, steady and final. Remember what you have learned. Carry it beyond these walls. Do not let fear blind you. When the sky grows dark and the void reaches down, the heirs of earth must stand. That is your purpose. The glow dimmed, and the chamber grew quiet once more. The guardian stood still, as though returning to rest, yet the hum of energy continued to flow through the air. The explorers looked to Malik. He met their eyes with calm strength. We cannot keep this hidden. The world must know, or else when the test comes, we will be unprepared. One of them shook his head nervously. Who will believe us? People will laugh, they will doubt. They will say it is only a story. Perhaps, Malik replied, but truth has power. We saw it with our own eyes. And if the day comes when the sky grows dark, they will remember. The group fell silent again. Outside, the desert sun had risen, lighting the dunes with golden fire. But inside the tomb, the explorers sat in the glow of a truth greater than gold, a truth that tied their small lives to the vast stars above. And though the sentinel rested once more, its presence filled them with certainty. Humanity was not small. Humanity was not forgotten. Humanity was chosen. The desert day passed slowly, but inside the tomb the explorers felt no hunger, no thirst, only the weight of the words they had heard. The sentinel stood still, yet the hum of energy around it reminded them that it was watching. Its glowing eyes flickered faintly, as though waiting for the moment to speak again. Malik sat with his back against a pillar, thinking deeply. His companions looked to him for guidance, though he had never asked to lead them. He felt the responsibility settle on his shoulders, heavier than the sands above the tomb. They had found a truth greater than treasure, yet with it came a burden. The sentinel had spoken of a test. That thought would not leave his mind. Rami broke the silence. His voice was steady but uneasy. Malik, do you think the test is only words? Or will it be something real, something we must face with our own strength? Malik lifted his head. It will be real. The sentinel is no dream. Its words are not stories. If it says a test will come, then it will come. The others exchanged worried looks. Some whispered that perhaps they should leave the tomb, take their discovery and return to the world above. Yet none truly wished to abandon what they had seen. Curiosity and fear pulled at them equally. Before Malik could speak again, the chamber grew brighter. The crystals in the sentinel's eyes flared like twin stars. The golden walls shimmered with lines of light, the carvings glowing as though alive. The explorers stood quickly, shielding their eyes from the sudden brilliance. The sentinel's voice filled the chamber. The heirs of Earth must prove their worth. You seek truth, but truth alone is not enough. Courage, unity, and trust must guide you. The test begins now. The ground trembled. The carvings on the walls shifted, rearranging into new patterns. What had once been maps of the stars became a labyrinth of shining lines, forming a doorway on the far side of the chamber. Slowly, the stone wall cracked open, revealing a passage glowing with pale light. The explorers hesitated, but Malik stepped forward without fear. This is the path. We are being called. Rami swallowed hard but followed. The others, though uncertain, could not turn back. Together they entered the passage, leaving behind the main chamber and stepping into the unknown. The corridor stretched long and narrow, its walls alive with shifting symbols. The light came not from lamps or fire but from the stone itself, as though the walls held the glow of hidden stars. The air was cool and silent, broken only by the sound of their footsteps. After some time, they entered a wide hall. At the center stood three great platforms, each carved with different symbols. One showed a flame, one a circle of hands, and the third an open eye. Above them, the ceiling shone with faint stars, forming constellations that seemed to move as they watched. The sentinel's voice echoed through the hall, though the machine itself was not present. Three paths lie before you. One tests courage, one tests unity, and one tests truth. Only by passing them shall you be worthy to carry the gift. The explorers looked at each other nervously. Malik felt the weight of choice. He turned to his companions and said, "We will face them together. If the test is meant for us, then we cannot succeed by standing apart." They agreed, and Malik stepped onto the platform of the flame. Instantly, the room shifted. The walls melted into darkness, and they found themselves standing on a narrow bridge above a vast abyss. Wind roared around them, though no desert sand was present here. The bridge swayed as if alive, and the only way forward was across. The sentinel's voice spoke again. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to move forward in spite of it. The explorers clutched one another as the bridge shook. Some cried out, but Malik raised his voice above the roar. "Do not look down. Look ahead. Step with me." He moved forward slowly, his heart pounding, yet his steps never faltered. Rami followed, then the others. Each step felt like a test of will. The wind grew stronger, the abyss darker, yet they did not stop. At last, after what felt like hours, they reached the far side. The darkness faded, and once more they stood in the Hall of Stars. The first platform dimmed. The flame symbol faded into the stone. Malik turned to the circle of hands. He stepped upon it, and again the world changed. This time they stood in a chamber with high walls, where heavy stones blocked the path ahead. The stones were far too large for one person to move alone. The sentinel's voice filled the air. Unity is strength. Alone you will fail, together you will succeed. Rami tried to push one stone, but it did not move. Another explorer tried, and still nothing happened. Malik stepped forward. Together, he said firmly. Place your hands here, with mine. They gathered, pressing their shoulders against the largest stone. At first it did not budge, but then it trembled. Slowly, with effort and strain, the stone began to shift. Sweat dripped from their brows, muscles ached, but they did not stop. Inch by inch, they pushed until at last the stone rolled aside. Behind it the wall opened into light, and they were returned again to the Hall of Stars. The second platform dimmed, its symbol fading into the floor. Only the open eye remained. Malik stepped onto it. The hall dissolved into brightness, and he found himself standing alone. His companions were gone. Silence pressed around him. The sentinel's voice came, softer this time. Truth is not given. It is seen. Look within, heir of earth. What do you seek? Malik looked around, confused. Before him appeared images, gold piled high, crowns shining with jewels, and voices whispering of fame and power. His heart stirred, but he shook his head. Then the images changed. He saw his home, his family, the desert he loved, the stars above the night sky. He saw the faces of his companions, standing with him in the tomb. He understood. He raised his voice. I do not seek gold or crowns. I seek knowledge and truth. I seek strength not for myself but for all humanity. That is my choice. The images faded. His companions appeared beside him once more. The Hall of Stars returned, and the final platform dimmed. The sentinel's voice filled the hall with power. You have passed the test. You chose courage in fear, unity in struggle, and truth over desire. You are worthy to carry the gift of the pharaohs. The platform sank into the ground, and the passage behind them opened once more. The explorers walked back into the main chamber. The sentinel waited, its eyes glowing like suns. Malik stood before it, his heart steady. He bowed his head slightly. We have done as you asked. The sentinel lowered its head in return. Then the path is open. The gift will be revealed. Prepare yourselves, heirs of earth, for the time of trial draws near. The explorers exchanged silent glances. They had entered the tomb as seekers of history, but now they stood as guardians of destiny. And though the desert remained quiet outside, the winds of change had already begun to stir. The sun had sunk low over the desert when Malik and his companions stepped out of the tomb. The golden dunes stretched endlessly, quiet and still, but the explorers felt the air was no longer the same. Something unseen pressed upon the horizon, a weight that made the sky darker than it should have been. Rami shaded his eyes and pointed upward. Do you see that? At first it looked like a cloud, but clouds did not shine with silver edges. The shape grew larger, spreading across the sky, until there was no doubt. It was not a cloud. It was a ship, vast and silent, moving like a shadow across the heavens. The others cried out in fear. Malik's heart raced, but he remembered the words of the sentinel. The enemies from beyond would come. The test had been a warning. And now, the time had arrived. The ground trembled behind them. The great stone door of the tomb opened wider on its own. From within, the sentinel stepped forward, its towering form glowing brighter than ever. Its crystal eyes burned like stars. The explorers stared in awe. The machine that had slept for centuries now walked upon the desert, its heavy steps leaving deep marks in the sand. Its voice rang out, calm but firm. The void has returned. The heirs of Earth must stand. The ship above lowered, and beams of pale light struck the desert floor. Strange figures appeared within the light, not human, but tall and thin, with shapes blurred as though made of mist and metal together. They moved without sound, their presence heavy and cold. Fear gripped the explorers, but Malik stepped forward. "We are not alone. The sentinel stands with us. Do not fear." The sentinel raised its arms. From its chest burst a beam of golden light that shot into the sky. The dunes glowed as the beam struck the ship above, forcing it back. The silent figures staggered, their forms flickering like broken shadows. The explorers gasped. They had no weapons, no power, yet they felt strength rise within them. The sentinel had given them more than protection. It had given them belief. The figures recovered and began to move forward, spreading across the sand. Malik turned to his companions. "We cannot stand back. The sentinel fights for us, but we must fight with it." Rami nodded, his fear hardening into resolve. "What can we do?" As if answering, the sand near their feet began to shift. The ground opened, revealing small orbs of glowing light. The explorers picked them up carefully. The orbs settled into their palms and grew brighter, wrapping their hands with warmth. The sentinel's voice rang out. "The gift of the pharaohs. Light to guide the heirs. Use it with courage." Malik raised the orb in his hand. At once it sent out a beam of light, striking one of the shadowy figures. The creature froze, its shape unraveling before fading into mist. Rami and the others followed, their orbs shining like stars against the night. The desert became a field of light. Golden beams from the sentinel rose into the sky, clashing with silver lines from the ship above. The explorers moved as one, striking with their orbs, driving back the advancing figures. Their fear had not vanished, but courage burned stronger. The ship above roared with a sound like thunder. Its silver lights grew stronger, pressing against the sentinel's golden beam. The desert shook, dunes collapsing under the weight of the clash. Malik felt the sand give way beneath him, but he stood firm, raising his orb higher. The sentinel spoke again. "Heirs of Earth, unite your light. Alone the stars are faint, but together they shine as the sun." Malik called out to his companions. "Together. Aim at the sky." They gathered close, lifting their orbs in unison. The beams of light joined into one, rising upward like a pillar. It struck the ship, merging with the sentinel's golden beam. The clash brightened until the desert looked as though day had returned. The shadowy figures dissolved, their forms breaking apart into mist. The ship above trembled, its silver glow flickering as though in pain. The roar grew louder, then faded into silence. With one final flash, the ship pulled away, retreating into the sky until it vanished among the stars. The desert fell quiet. The dunes lay broken, the air heavy with heat, but the silence carried peace instead of fear. The explorers lowered their orbs, which dimmed softly and faded back into the sand. The sentinel stood tall, its body still glowing faintly. It lowered its head toward Malik and the others. "You have stood. You have shown courage in fear, unity in struggle, and truth in choice. The void has been turned away, for now. You are worthy." Malik felt his chest rise with both relief and pride. They had not been warriors, yet they had fought. They had not been kings, yet they had stood like pharaohs. The explorers gathered close, their faces shining with awe. Some wept quietly, others smiled with disbelief. Rami placed a hand on Malik's shoulder. "We did it. Against all reason, we did it." Malik nodded slowly. His voice was steady. "We did not do it alone. The sentinel gave us strength, but more than that, it reminded us of who we are. Humanity is not weak. Humanity is not forgotten. We are chosen. The sentinel's eyes dimmed, though its presence remained strong. This battle is only the beginning. The void will return, stronger than before. But today, you have proven that Earth can carry this truth beyond the sands. Let all of your people know they are heirs of the stars. The desert wind rose, carrying sand across the dunes like a golden tide. The explorers stood in silence, watching the horizon. They had entered the desert as seekers of a lost tomb. They had uncovered a machine, a guardian, a truth. And now they had stood in battle not only for themselves but for all of Earth. Night returned, the sky clear and full of stars. Malik looked up at them, his heart steady. The same stars that had guided the pharaohs now shone on him. He felt their light as a promise, a reminder of what they had begun. The battle was over, but the journey of humanity had only just awakened. The desert was calm once more. The stars above shone brightly, their silver light stretching over endless dunes. Malik and his companions stood in silence, breathing the cool night air, their hearts still heavy with the memory of the battle. They had faced the void and lived. Yet they knew this was not the end. The sentinel stood before them, tall and glowing faintly, like a guardian carved from the starlight itself. Its crystal eyes watched them with quiet strength. The silence between them was not empty but filled with meaning, as if the desert itself listened. At last the sentinel spoke. You have stood as heirs of Earth. The void has been turned back, but it is not gone. One day it will return, stronger than before. That day may not come soon, but it will come. You must prepare. Malik stepped forward, his face calm though his heart still raced. What must we do? Tell us how to prepare. The sentinel's chest glowed, and patterns of golden light spread across the sand. They formed shapes of ships, cities, and stars. The explorers gasped, for it was as if the future itself had been painted before their eyes. The pharaohs knew the truth, the sentinel said. They built their tombs not only as graves, but as vaults of knowledge. Within them lies the memory of the first guardians. That knowledge is your legacy. Share it. Teach your people. Unite them. Humanity must stand together, or the void will tear it apart. Rami looked at the glowing patterns with wide eyes. But we are only a few. How can we carry this to all the world? The sentinel's gaze softened. Every flame begins as a spark. You are the spark. The desert will remember what was hidden. When you speak, others will listen. Carry the truth with courage, and it will spread. The explorers exchanged glances. Fear and wonder mixed on their faces. They had not asked for such a burden, yet they could not deny it. They had been chosen, not by chance but by destiny. The patterns of light faded into the sand, leaving only the still night. The sentinel lowered its head as though in farewell. I will remain within the tomb. My time in the open world has passed. When the void returns, I shall awaken again. Until then, the task is yours. The golden glow of its body dimmed slowly. The sentinel stepped back into the tomb, the great stone doors closing behind it with a sound like thunder. Once more the entrance was sealed, as though it had never opened. Only the deep marks in the sand where the sentinel had walked remained as proof. The explorers stood alone in the desert night. A long silence followed, broken only by the wind. Malik at last turned to his companions. His voice was quiet but steady. We cannot forget what we have seen. We must take this truth to the world. This is not the end of our journey. It is the beginning. The others nodded. They were weary, yet hope burned in their eyes. The journey back across the desert was long. The sand stretched endlessly, the sun rising and falling as they walked. Yet the explorers carried no despair. The orbs of light had faded, but their memory remained, warming them like a fire that would never die. When at last they reached the edge of the desert, the sight of distant villages filled their hearts with fresh strength. The world they knew was waiting, unaware of what had begun. In the days that followed, Malik and his companions spoke of the tomb, the sentinel, and the battle of light. At first, many doubted. Some laughed, saying it was nothing more than a tale. But others listened closely, their hearts stirred by the truth in Malik's voice. He did not speak of gold or treasure. He spoke of courage, unity, and truth. His words carried weight because they were not his alone. They were the legacy of the pharaohs. Slowly, the message spread. From village to village, from city to city, the story grew. Some called it a legend. Others began to believe it was a warning. And among those who believed, a new strength rose. People began to look at the stars differently, no longer as distant lights, but as a path that humanity was meant to walk. Rami often stood with Malik on quiet nights, watching the heavens. "Do you think the void will truly return?" he asked. Malik's answer was always the same. "Yes. But when it does, we will not face it as we are now. By then, we will be ready." Years passed, and the seeds of truth grew. Scholars searched the deserts and mountains, uncovering hidden carvings and forgotten ruins. Engineers studied the stars, building tools to reach further than ever before. Children learned not only the stories of kings but also the story of the heirs of earth who had faced the void and prevailed. The pharaoh's curse, once feared as a tale of doom, was no longer seen as a curse. It was a call. A reminder that humanity was not small, not forgotten, but chosen to rise among the stars. Malik grew older, but his spirit remained strong. He carried the memory of the sentinel within him always, and when doubt came, he closed his eyes and saw the golden glow, the battle of light, and the truth that had been revealed. On his final journey back to the desert, he stood once more before the silent dunes. The tomb remained sealed, its doors hidden by the sands, but he felt the presence of the sentinel beneath. He raised his hand toward the stars. "The time will come," he whispered. "And when it does, humanity will be ready." The wind carried his words across the dunes, as if the desert itself had listened. Far above, the stars shone brighter, as though they too remembered. The void was distant, but not gone. Yet now Earth was no longer unprepared. Its heirs had awakened, and its legacy had begun. And so the story of the pharaoh's curse ended not with fear, but with hope. For humanity had learned that within its people burned a light stronger than darkness, a light that no shadow could ever take away.